So we are going to do our asymmetrical front facing design in foam. You will see that we don't have the tape, so we went through this last time, but we would need to, in real life, take the Oasis to the dish to stop it moving around and falling out in transport. And the positioning of the half a brick of Oasis is that it's as tall as it can be. So if it was square and flat, it would be that way round, but we are having it tall. So we've got a bit of height on it. This is so that we can have a bit of height with the design, and then we don't have to cover as much Oasis around the side. So we're going to start with the greenery, and you can, if you want, go and forage to get a bit more, but you should have enough. So the first piece I've just left, I need the straightest piece, and I am going to bring that in to about a third from the back. So we've still got quite a bit at the front here, and this is standing nice and straight, and it's to the to my right hand side. And then we need another piece which you want to be the same length, so we can measure that, and that's going to be about there. So just make sure it's the same height, which it is, it's perfect. This is going to come out to the side. So what we're forming is an L shape. This piece of ruscus we're going to keep and take out that piece there, and that gives us 3 more pieces that we can use within the design. So I'm now going to build a bit of a shape here. So I need this next stem is going to be shorter than this one. So if I measure it roughly, can you see as well that I'm always cutting above the leaves, which means that I can use this whole stem again. So this is going to come slightly more forward, but lower. And then this stem here, so this is the bit that I cut in half. I'm going to take the end off there and bring this out long here. But if I have it this way, we can see this end bit. So if we turn it round, we can't see that, so it still looks lovely. So I'm going to use all these little pieces around the bottom. So the shape that we're trying to create is an L shape, but like the front facing design that we did 2 weeks back, is it still needs to come out to the front. So we don't just want it long ways and thin, we want it to come out more here as well. And so with our last piece of ruscus, we can break this down a lot. You can see I've got a whole stem, but I'm going to break it down there, there, and there, and there. So out of one stem, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of foliage. So this is really commercial. It means our designs can be more cost effective, which of course is what we all want to do, is make lots of money. And then I'm bringing these in around and just trying to get as much of the Oasis covered as possible, and I'm using every little piece. So this is the main bulk of our shape now, but we also have the pistache. So the pistache is really good for bulking out, but it does need to be used all the pieces. So for this piece here now, I'm going to cut off this side one, and then in here I'm going to cut that above there. The reason for that is I've still got 2 branches coming either side. It's difficult for you to see, but you see then I've cut out the middle bit, and then I've still got this nice bit here which is still lovely and bushy. So again, out of one piece of pistache, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that are all still really lovely and full, and they're really going to make my design nice and full and heavy. So using the longest piece, just making sure that all the bits of foliage are still nice, just taking off any broken pieces. Bring in the longest piece down low, and then we want a nice long straight piece. Well, you need a longer, yeah, coming in at the front there. Down the front here, we need to be angling the foliage so that we're going to cover up the dish. I'll move that back a bit so you can see. And you see I've not got my stems very long, they're quite short, because we only want to be going into the oasis about 2 or 3 centimetres. The reason for that is so that our oasis doesn't come blocked up with stems, making it impossible to put our flowers in when we get to the flowering stage. So I'm actually not very happy with this piece here. I'm going to take this out and bring in a taller piece. And then this piece can come lower down there. So at this stage, what we're doing is building a shape and getting the oasis covered. You don't have to worry too much about the back of the design. Just making sure that we've got a nice shape going through. And what you're going for is it's a triangle. So we're flat here, flat there, that's your triangular shape. And now I can see that I've got some gaps here at the front. So I'm going to bring in some foliage there to fill in the gaps. So that is pretty full from the front. So I'm quite happy with that coverage at the front there. I know we can still see little bits of foliage, oasis, a little bits is fine, but I'm quite happy with that. Now, seeing as I still have 2 pieces of foliage left, I can work towards covering the back a bit. So this is what my back looks like. So it's really empty, but because I've got the spare foliage, I can do that. But these are going to be even tinier. So even small pieces, and they will be coming in really tight. And just making sure that that back's nicely covered. So it is always good practice to get the back done as lovely as the front, but it is something that you would, if you haven't got enough foliage on, it's what you would leave till last if you're low. But yep, so really, really small pieces. If you can see that against my hand, this piece is not even the full length of my hand there. And all these little pieces will go in. So that is our front bit done. I'm just going to build a little bit more up out here. Just to make it a little bit more of a nice profile. And that is the greening up done. The roses coming through. So our first one, we need to be in the tightest bud that we have. See, this one is quite open, and in comparison this one is quite small. So this is going to go up high. So we need to measure it and see how much we need to cut off, so you can put it where you think it's going to go lengthwise and take your bit off, and then get it into the oasis. So I am going to leave a bit of a gap here between these 2 stems, is where I'm going to put the eustoma. So then my rose is going to come, it's probably about 1 centimetre from the front bit of the foam. and that's pushed down, so that's in about 2 centimetres there. We then need to bring in another rose which will come long. So we need another one that's in quite tight bud, which none of these, oh, that one's not too bad. And then this one should probably be the same length as this rose, so you could measure it on there. Yeah, so that's about the right sort of length for me with my design. So if you see that's from my finger there to just past my wrist, that's the sort of length you're looking at. And that is going to come down low to form our L shape. Now I have come to the right of the ruscus. The reason for that is so that it's more forward rather than coming back. Our third rose is our one that is going to come central. So I've just taken off a good chunk there, but I'm going to put it in. Now that's too long, so I'm going to go a bit shorter. And that's about right there. So this is going right on the top corner of the oasis. So it's right at that angle, and you want it to come forwards a little bit so that it can be seen. This is our main focal. And now our next two will be forming the Hogarth line. So we're going to come here, and then here, about here with this next rose, then we go in here, and then we're going to have another one here. So our next positions are these two here. So I've got this rose that needs to be shorter. And this is coming in quite, still quite parallel, quite straight down, but just leaning a little bit forward. So it's taller than this one, but shorter than this one. Then you see it was coming down this way. So I don't know if you saw that adjustment, but it was kicking out slightly this way, but I want it to kick in that way. This is the shape, the arrangement's going this way, the movement's that way. And then this one is going to be a sort of similar length. Now you can see this rose has some tatty storm petals, so I'm just going to take those off. And some tatty leaves. And this one is going to, again, needs to be a little bit shorter, so just take another little bit off. So you're always looking, always adjusting, and that one will go right in that foam, just in that spot. So that is our Hogarth line coming through. So that's the roses in position. Our next flower that we're going to use is our eustoma. So we want a stem that's just got some nice buds to come up high. So this is the perfect stem for that. Don't know if you can see, it's not a particularly great stem of eustoma, but I've got lots of buds and then just one flower. So I'm just going to take a hit and take off this stem. So I'm going to leave that flower as long as possible for now, so then I can use it to its longest ability when I get to that stage. This can go behind the rose and in front of the ruscus. And so then it's sitting about an inch above the rose. We're then going to want a similar sort of stem to come down long this way. And what have we got? This is a good one. Again, I mean, this is a pretty scrappy piece of eustoma, but perfect for what we're doing today. This bud, I'm just going to take this off and leave it to the side. It's no good for me right now, but I might need it later. This is going to come out long, so this is going to sit on top of the ruscus and just be behind the rose. So this is what's forming our L shape now. That's nice and solid. So we need to then carry on adding in our bits of eustoma as and where we need them. this is a nice little stem, so I'm going to bring this, I'm going to take the buds off here like so. I'm going to save this one for later, but these buds, in fact even lower, I'm going to take off these buds as well, and that is going to sit down the front there, about there. So I'm going to bring in one of these pieces that I had left over. So this is a much nicer one, it's much fuller. Going to make that a nice sharp angle, and then I think this needs to be coming in quite low, like down here. So it's quite recessed in, so the orange is brighter and sticking out more, and this purple is still just dotting through but not quite as dominant. So then you can see now that forming down here is another Hogarth curve. We've got the buds of the eustoma here, then you have another bit here and another bit here. We're going to follow that path going down this way. So I'm going to bring in a nice long piece just between the roses, and then I need another piece around here, so another full head. And again, the eustoma, it's quite recessed in because the colour's so dark. So what's happening there is we've got a line coming down this way, and then we also have another line coming down this way. So we do need to bring out some more around here, which we can do with our buds. So they don't need to be that long, these, they're just filling in, really filling in the gaps. And then I've got one more flower here, so I'm just wondering to myself where to put this, and I might bring it in low down here just to make this bit a bit thicker at the base. If you can see that. That's about the right position. Okay, so then the only flower that we have left now is the solidago. So this is just a filler flower. I'm just taking off these lower leaves because I don't need those. And to use this is really just filling out. So I'm going to break down the stem a bit. So that's, you can't see, that was in there. So I've just chopped the middle out. And these long stems, that's a really long stem branch, so that can come off. So our next stage is to put all of the solidago in. So this is in smaller bunches, but we'll just fill in as and where needed, where little gaps are. And it could be, these little gaps could be where you can see the oasis. We want these to be evenly distributed as well, so we're not just poking them in wherever, we're still keeping to this line that we've been working through. And we will still want some tall, so I'm going to bring these in front of my rose. But just making sure that it's tucked down really quite far, because I don't want this, because it's really loose and it's really wild, I don't want it to ruin the lines too much, so it's got to be contained in. And we've got 2 stems of these, so I've got a little bit more to use. And I'm going to I'm going to take out this middle bit here. So I've got a really nice piece, which is that long. It's about the length of my hand. And this is going to come down the front here. So see, it's just quite gentle kicking out there. And then we'll have a bit more just above there. So that's coming out 3D. And then we need a long piece to come further down. So I'm just going to check that. And that needs to be about that sort of length. So we're looking at that sort of length, but this is too heavy and bulky. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thin all of this down by taking off all these little branches and leaves, but of course I've got the length, so that you know what the length is. See, that's quite tall, and that is going to come underneath the rose here, and it's pushing in. Keeping long, and also because it's wild, like what I was just saying earlier, but really manipulating it so every piece is where I want it to be, which that piece is looking like it's coming up a little bit, so I'm just going to snip that one out and bring it down the front here. So that is our asymmetrical design done. You should at this stage not be able to see any of the oasis at the front, or your gaps should be full, and you should have a nice clear line. And that's it done.